short while ago, the Red Sox announced that Ron Roenicke has been named Interim Manager, and we have Chaim Bloom here, Ron, and Brian O'Halloran to take your questions. But before we begin with questions, we're going to hear some opening remarks, starting first with Chaim.
Hey, good afternoon. Good to see everybody again. As Kevin said, we're here to announce that Ron Roenicke is our interim manager. As you know, we had a very lengthy process that got us to this point, and I think going through that process made us, feel very strongly that Ron is the right guy to lead our group forward right now. And I want to say a couple things about the interim tag on this title. After talking through it as an organization, we felt that naming Ron our interim manager was the best way to respect, the investigation that's ongoing into our 2018 club. But we feel very strongly about Ron's ability to lead this group and how well suited he is, for this task. And I want to say, being new to the organization, I had not known Ron prior to this, and was so impressed with, the way that he carried himself throughout this process, the baseball conversations we had. And it's also worth noting that during the process, I and a number of us, I reached out to people that I know in baseball who know Ron, and I also had a lot of people that I know in baseball unsolicited reach out to me about Ron, and it really painted a picture that squared with what I saw during the interview process of a great person and a great baseball person who is extremely well respected by everybody in the game, and certainly by the people in our clubhouse. So we're very happy to have Ron leading us right now, and also want to turn it over to BOH, who has worked with Ron the last couple of years, to say a couple words as well.
Yeah, we're very excited to have Ron lead our group going forward. He's been a significant contributor to the Red Sox for the last couple of years. I've enjoyed getting to know him, and even more excited to work more closely with him going forward in a different capacity for him and a different capacity for me. Ron is, as Chaim said, he's respected throughout our organization, inside and outside of the clubhouse, and certainly around the game as well. And I know that he's going to be a terrific partner for Chaim and me as we go forward, and he's the right guy to lead this group of players and staff in 2020 and going forward.
So first, thanks, Chaim, Brian, and your crew. I know how tough it was for you guys with this short window you had to not only hire a manager, but you're trying to put together the best team that we can have going into this season. Goes along with the trades that you've had to make during that time, the people that we've signed. So I know how difficult that is. I know you did a lot of background check on me, which I'm glad it turned out well. And I'm looking forward to the relationship that I'm going to have with you guys during this year. And I think, going forward, I understand the challenges that we're going to have, as you always do as a manager through seasons. But the challenge of trying to win ball games, and our focus is on a really good bunch of guys and a great team, and trying to get back in the playoffs. We're very disappointed, as all these players are, in what happened last year, and our focus is to try to get back in the playoffs and see what happens after that. You get hot and you go through the different stages, and that's where our focus is on the players, trying to get them to be the best that they can be, and to win games. So I'm really looking forward to this year and the relationships we build, and hopefully having a winning season.
Thank you, Jeff. Now we can open up the questions, beginning with Johnny in the back.
Ron, how much did you know of the shenanigans in 2018, and how tough will it be to get this team back on the right track?
Well, I can't comment on anything that's still going on, but trying to get the team really to focus on what we need to do. And if you have conversations with any of these guys, they want to win. And 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 and they are not happy with what happened last year. I know we had streaks where we were pretty good, but the focus is going to be on moving forward and trying to have that great season that we know we're capable of.
I ask this with all respect, but Red Sox fans should assume that your own investigation show beyond any reasonable doubt that your new manager was not involved in anything that Major League Baseball is investigating. And if the answer to that is yes, can we assume the interim tag will be lifted after the investigation is announced?
We have no reason to think that, there's anything that would cause an adverse result for Ron, in this investigation. But of course, the investigation is not complete. It's not fair for us to determine that. Obviously, we can't determine what comes out of the investigation. And so we're going to respect the ongoing investigation, and we'll address permanency once it's complete.
Second part to that?
I can't remember what it was.
Maybe I misunderstood your answer, but assuming the investigation is done and complete to your satisfaction, would the interim tag be removed?
I just said we'll address permanency once it's complete.
Okay, Dan over here on the left.
Ron, just how much do you think your managerial experience in Milwaukee will help in this situation? Certainly, not an easy situation to come into with everything that's been going on around the team.
There's no doubt. Anytime that you have experience going through all the things that can happen in seasons with players, with different things outside of what happens on the field, these guys they're all people. I mean, we all have our off the field issues. We all have family issues that we deal with, and so all the experiences, probably learning more from the trials that you go through and the challenges that you go through than when things are going well. So I think all of that will help me certainly to be able to deal with things that come up, the players, their concerns, a coaching staff, same thing, and their concerns. So all of that definitely helps.
Ian?
Ron, two-part question. First one, did you ever wonder if you're going to get this chance to manage again? And second one is just, how would you describe yourself as a manager? What type of manager are you?
I guess I'll answer the first one, the last question first. So I think the main thing that I think that I do the best is to get most out of the players. And that it really doesn't change so much as whether you're a coach or a manager. That really is your ultimate goal, is what do we have to do to get whatever abilities these guys have to perform those abilities on the field. And I think you have a bigger voice as a manager. You're able to maybe dive into the pitching maybe more than if I was a bench coach, or say I was a hitting coach. You don't really deal with the other areas so much. So you can touch more of the guys more often when you're a manager, and it is a different voice. So that is what I think that I do the best. I'm able, and again, I think it's all the experiences that I talk about as a player. I was released a few times. I was sold once, and I went up and down all the time. And so all those experiences build this idea that I have of how tough it is on these guys. The guys that play every day, the superstars, yes, it's hard to perform at this level that they're expected to play at every year. But it's the guys that are bouncing around and they're trying to keep jobs, and bullpen guys that turn over so much. It's trying to reach them and get them to understand how it is mentally to go about your job in a way that gets the most out of them. And everybody's different. Like I mentioned, it's some guys are sort of confident. You don't have to say a thing to them, and then there's other guys that you have to spend a lot of time with them. So those are the things that I think are important to me. What was the first part of that?
Did you start to wonder if you'd get the chance again?
I didn't know. I think right away I thought I would, but then as years go by, you kind of wonder about it. The difference is I really enjoy the challenge of managing, and there are bigger challenges. Coaching is fun. It's fun. When you reach players and they and you see the improvement and you see all of a sudden that light that turns on and these guys become just these great athletes, it's a different feeling. When you're managing, you feel the same way, but because of all the different areas that you're pulled, you think about it differently.
Sean on the right.
Ron, the manager's job has evolved quite a bit over the last few years. Since you last managed 5 or 6 years ago, certainly analytics have become more prevalent, and maybe a more collaborative relationship with the front office exists than maybe it did when you began, certainly in Milwaukee. How different is the job now, do you think, from 5 or 6 years ago, and how do you adapt to some of those things?
Yeah, it's different without a doubt. I think the communication between the front office and the manager's office has completely changed. It's basically an everyday conversation, which I think is really good, really healthy. I think when I started, Doug Melvin was a GM then, really nice guy. Our relationship was really good, so he made, and he kind of, at that time, I guess as a young manager, he kind of left you alone. I think the more time went on, certainly I think when he fired me, it was probably a little different feeling. But I think, that relationship, it's always good, but when you're dealing with somebody every day, you really feel different about that person, because when you see them, it's not like, oh, what are they coming to see me about? It's like, oh, okay, Chaim's coming down today, or Brian's coming down today, and what we're going to talk about. So that part of the relationship is definitely different. The analytics, without a doubt, are different. We started them a lot. My first year when I went there, and Chaim was with Joe Madden, who I was with in Anaheim, and Joe and I talked about a lot of things that basically were analytics. Really back all the way to 2000 when I first was with Joe in Anaheim. And so it's just easier to get to everything now. We always wanted all the information we could get. It's just right now, if I ask somebody for something, I get it. Before it was like, we wanted something, but how in the world can we possibly get this stuff? We can't get it. So it's a huge advantage to have all this information, and it's a big advantage to have a department who communicates well with that group of manager and coaches.
Alex on the right.
For Chaim and Brian, in the interview process, you guys interviewed some candidates who did not have prior managerial experience. In the current context of the Red Sox, how valuable was Ron's prior experience as a manager for this fit, and how much, after talking to people outside the organization, did you decide that you valued the idea of someone who was familiar to this group?
Both of those things, I think, were real positives, as we assessed, the field, and certainly as we assess Ron. I think, obviously there's a lot of different ways to do well in any job, but I think the experience that Ron has doing this, something we talked about during the interview process, something that, you hope when people have different experiences, that they learn things from those experiences, they grow, they have things in their Rolodex, so to speak, that they can call on that will help them. And I think that's certainly the case with Ron. And, I also think, obviously, him knowing our group, anybody would love that advantage to really know, a group of players and a staff inside and out. So for us, it wasn't necessarily that, certain boxes had to be checked, as much as I think the totality of everything that Ron brought to the table as a candidate, including those things, made him, a very strong choice.
Okay, Jimmy over here on the left.
Ron, what did you learn in Milwaukee that you bring with you to this job, or on the other hand, were there any things that you want to do differently now that you've had that experience?
Well, I think any time that you're with a group of people, especially different players, different coaching staff, you're always learning something different. So I think when I played, It was the same way. I played for all these different managers. Everybody's a little different. I learned all these things. When I went to Milwaukee with a different group of players, different group of coaches, you're constantly learning, trying to do things better. And whether it's a good season, which I had my first year, whether it's a poor season, which we had my last year there, you're still learning things. And all the time, I'm thinking about, what could I have done better? And by the conversations you have with people, by sitting back and looking at things, and obviously I had quite a few years to look at things, that you start seeing maybe a different picture. Being with Alex the last 2 years, I thought I was, and I still do think I'm a good communicator, but I really watched a guy that's as good as I've ever seen. So it's constantly learning things and trying to get better. And that comes through observation, it comes through conversations. And I want to do this job better. So different ideas really help in how I formulate how I go about this job.
Even without Mookie Betts and David Price, how do you feel about this roster? Talking to the players today, they seem to almost embrace the underdog role, say, prove the doubters wrong. What do you think about this roster?
Yeah, hard to, obviously. You don't replace Mookie Betts, who's one of the best players in the game. David Price, who has put together some different seasons, and obviously 2 years ago what he did for us, helping us win the World Series. You don't replace him, but you move forward. You all of a sudden guys surprise you. You bring in some guys and they step up and they do well, and this team who like you just said is they're focused on what they can do and showing people wrong, and I think anytime you have a group like that who is extremely talented, this is a really good ball club. There are some tremendous athletes on this team. So we replace them with nice pieces, and hopefully we move on. But surely those two guys are they're great players, and you hope that the guys you replace them with become great players. And whether it's this year, whether it's a few years, you just keep moving on. And I know Chaim, being with Tampa Bay, they you lose these great players, but you keep, all of a sudden somebody steps in and they become a great player. And so still I'm very fortunate that I've got to manage in Milwaukee with a great bunch of players, and I'm fortunate this year that I'm going to be with another great bunch of players.
Pete on the right.
Have you named a bench coach, or will you name a bench coach?
We have not. We're going to address that later in the spring.
And Ron, if I could ask, did you get a chance to speak with Alex at all today, maybe? Or?
I haven't today, no. We text back and forth, but it just, he's somebody that I really enjoyed being with for those 2 years, and you guys know I had him way back as when I managed him when he was a player, but he's just he really cares about the players and cares about the coaching staff, and was a fun guy to be around.
Tom Karen in the back.
Yeah, Ron, you've been here 2 years with essentially the same core of players. You had a very good year and a year that didn't go quite as well. How do you take the best of what you've seen with this group, the worst of what you've seen in this group, and kind of synthesize that to get them ready for this year?
Yeah, it's very hard to maintain that level of play to get you even to the World Series year after year. I know the Dodgers have done it. Houston, obviously is one of those teams. The Yankees, you could say, is one of those teams. So to have that, to maintain that, really, it's not just your physical attributes that you have in your team, but it's the mental side of it. It's wanting to do everything you can to win. We went through that in 2002 with Anaheim. We weren't the best team, but to be with a bunch of guys that wanted to win that bad and would do anything it would take, on the field to win, and you would see guys after the game that were 0 for 4, and you'd win the game, and they coming through the line, they've got a big smile on their face. That's the kind of attitude that you need to have to be able to maintain that every year to compete. Guys are not happy about last year. I know we won it, and we had an unbelievable team in 18. And last year, these guys are upset about what happened, and I think that's a good thing coming into this year. Sometimes when you win all the time, you kind of just think, well, we'll just show up and we'll win. These guys don't feel that way. They know the kind of work that it's going to take, especially this spring, to get ready for the season, and how difficult it is to win all the time. And so they've got something to prove, and hopefully, we keep them healthy, which is huge, and we can get back in the playoffs again, and then we'll see.
Okay, Doug in the back.
What kind of camp are you gonna run this year? And does it take extra effort now that you have to catch up a little bit?
No, I think they're used to what they're doing. Basically, Alex and I talked about when I first came over. I told him kind of what I thought how camp would go. I listened to what he had to say. Put together this work schedule that tried to maximize everybody's potentials, and we really individualized the pitching. If I was a pitcher and I came to this camp and went through it, I'd say, wow, those guys did everything for me that I could possibly ask for to enable me to perform up the best that I can. And so I don't think there will be much change. I liked what we did the last 2 years, and last year we didn't start the season well, so maybe we'll look at that a little bit, make sure that we're ready. I'm not saying we weren't ready last year, but there's probably more an urgency this year to start off well and to have that good feeling again and get back on that winning track. And as great as these players are, there's still a lot of emotions. There's still a lot of mojo, if you will, and so to try to create that atmosphere and to get that winning feeling again.
Trey.
Ron, the last couple of days, a lot of players have really spoken about their respect for you. They had so much admiration for Alex as well. Do you feel, you talked about it as a communicator, can you take parts of what he did the last couple of years being alongside him in terms of personality traits, or is there a feeling for you that you can really only be yourself?
Well, I'm going to be myself, but like I said, I learned a lot. I learned a lot from watching him and how he deals with people and with players. And I think anytime that you see something like that and how successful it is, pay attention. And I paid attention. And so I'll continue to try to communicate, and you always are trying to do it better. So, but just to him, if you watch a manager and you watch what players do around him, you will really see how a player thinks about somebody. And if you watched at the beginning of the games for the last 2 years, Alex was the first one out there on the bench, and you watch, and those players, they come down in that dugout and they end up sitting by him. That doesn't happen that often. They come in the dugout, they're wanting to get ready for their game. They're going out, they're stretching, they're doing their thing. But these guys congregated to him. They would, I'd walk down there and you'd see 4 or 5 players sitting right next to him on the bench. And you walk in the dugout, and in the locker room, and you'd see him sitting, and you'd have this group around him. Well, that told me something. It told me that, hey, that communication, even though I think I was good at it, I can be better. And so I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to try to have as open as format as you can have and communicate as well as I can do it.
On that same thing, and you talked about the difference between managing in 2010 with the analytics, but the communication part. I've heard football coaches say that this has changed everything. The phones have changed everything. The way you deal with millennials, they want to know why now because of people.
Yeah.
Have you experienced that in the way you communicate differently than say 2010?
Oh, no doubt about it. It's completely different. I would have loved to have played in this era where I could ask a coach why. Because when I played, there wasn't asking a coach why. So they told you what to do and you did it. It's that way as parents too. Maybe I asked once in a while why to my parents, but I knew with my dad I couldn't ask too many times. So dealing with this group it's better. It's better. We all want to know why. Somebody tells you to do something, well, okay, I'm going to do it, but I really wish you'd tell me why. And these guys are getting the why. And as a coach and as a manager, your responsibility is to tell them why. And if you don't know, you shouldn't be telling the player what to do. I mean, if I tell the player to do something, I better have good answers when he asks me why. I think most of the things that I do during a game, and I want these guys to have the freedom to ask me, is if they see something that maybe they don't quite feel that, or that maybe they wonder why I did that, I expect them to ask me why. And I expect to have an answer. If I don't have an answer to them, then why am I doing things? But that's part of that learning. It's part of the experience that when I do something, I usually have a pretty good reason for it. Sometimes it's the gut feeling, but there's usually a reason for it.
Chris on the right.
For Chaim and Brian, obviously with the short transition and kind of the tough situation you were in, how important was it to have continuity and have someone, I know you interviewed outside candidates as well, but to have that kind of continuity?
It's certainly a plus. Like I said, and I said this at the beginning of the process too. I think it's really important to evaluate people for who they are in total and look at the whole person. And everybody who does this type of job is bringing their whole self to the job. So you really look at everything and how it all adds up to how they're going to be able to put players in a position to succeed. But there's no question that Ron, having been a part of success here and really understanding the group and being as perceptive as he is and combining that with what he, the time that he spent around this group, I think it equips him that much better to be able to get the most out of them.
John, back.
Yes, Ron, will you be an aggressive manager and could talk about Ryan and who will be the leadoff hitter?
The leadoff hitter already? Okay, well, Benny certainly can do it. I think we'll have to see, we have a couple new players, so we'll see where they fit in. Verdugo, I'm sure, with the on base and the way he can hit, can do it. So I think, looking at lineups, that's something I think the analytic part of it, when we talk about the analytics, will help with that and deciding what creates the most runs. So that's how kind of I'll go about it. What did you start it with?
And are you an aggressive?
Oh, an aggressive manager. So when I went over to Milwaukee, Doug Melvin liked the 3-run homer. I loved bunting and running and creating all kinds of problems. I was used to it in Anaheim. I really like it. I realize you can't run into a lot of outs and still be successful and to score the amount of runs you need to score. But I like being aggressive because I think it puts a lot of pressure on the other side. I think when you put pressure on the bases, it makes that pitcher lose his concentration on the pitches that he makes, and he makes a lot of bad pitches, which obviously helps our offense. But anytime you have threats on the bases, whether you're going extra bases, whether you're creating the opportunities to score more runs, they're really, if you think about base running, there should be some stats. We have our OPSs and all this, but base running really should be a part of that, because if you're stealing, 40 bases a year, you're basically adding on 40 doubles, basically, is what you're doing. You're going to be thrown out some of those times. But you're creating a lot more chances to score runs. You're creating problems on the other side with getting guys out of position with pitchers trying to rush pitches home. So I want to be as aggressive as I can be without being stupid. That's basically what it is.
Okay, one last question, Raul.
Ron, I was just wondering if you could give us an update on Chris Sale in the building today, expectations tomorrow will he be at full strength, and maybe expectations for the full season, what you're expecting from him after a rough season last year.
Yeah, do you guys want to comment a little bit on that?
Yeah,
With
so,
Chris?
yeah, so we expected Chris to be ready to go. He's actually ill, he's sick, so that is gonna slow him down, but other than that, he's fine.
Full health, he's ready to go from?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, great. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, guys.